Okay, 1 second. Okay. Yeah, it's great to be here. So I think when I was giving the topic of neo-Cold War and the geopolitics and kind of international politics of the East Asia, I got thinking what should I talk about, because I'm in Thailand. I'm not technically in like Northeast Asia, where like most of the panelists are located tonight. So then it led me think of the trends, the political trends and tensions in my region in Southeast Asia. So I want to talk about a rising trend that has been going on for the last decades, actually maybe 2 decades or more. It's this strongman's cooperation, and between a rising China and countries in Southeast Asia, which is in many countries led by strongmen, led by men in power, men who took power not legally, in military coups and something like that. But at the same time, in this past decade, we have also seen a rise in people's power led by the young generation. So that is going to be my topic today. So as you can see, Thailand is located in a strategic heart of Southeast Asia, mainland Southeast Asia, which also includes Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. So connecting these nations is this, mighty river. Is called the Mekong River, and actually the Mekong River started in China, and then it flew to the South China Sea. So that's why a lot of people call the mainland Southeast Asian countries as China's backyard. And this is, this picture is talk about the dam construction, which I will elaborate later. So talk about being a strategic location for logistics in the region. Thailand has always attracted interest from the world superpower. Prior and during the Cold War, Thailand has really good relationship with the U.S. Actually, the U.S. supported authoritarian governments, military coups, because they want to use Thailand as a base to kind of like fight communism in other countries in the region. So in return, the U.S. also helped the Thai king, the former king Bhumibol Adulyadej, kind of consolidate his power in politics. However, after the Cold War, the U.S. kind of shifted their policy, the foreign policy. So they didn't want to support the military regimes anymore. That's when China's influence started to increase in the region. But before we go on to talk about China's influence in Thailand, I want to talk a bit more about Thailand's foreign policy, which is called, scholars call it bamboo bending with the wind, meaning that our policy is basically solidly rooted on the ground, but flexible enough to bend whichever way the wind blows in order to survive. So this policy, this attitude, this sentimental have kind of helped Thailand to avoid conflict with major powers in the world and also maintain its sovereignty and security. So a lot of people are proud that Thailand has not been colonized by other countries. So yeah, this is the foreign policy. So starting in the mid 1990s, China's influence has increased sharply And one of the reasons was that was China's non-interference in domestic politics in other countries. So China wants to be a new superpower, a new economic power, and China wants to build a new international order. So in order to do so, China doesn't care about human rights records or anything, and would be willing to help, willing to cooperate with other states. So you can see after the 2004 military coup in Thailand, that ousted former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, the US actually turned its back against Thailand. And it was seen by the Thai conservative as a biased intervention. But on the other hand, China quickly took this advantage to extend its cooperation with the junta government. And then fast forward, we have another coup in 2014. So, we're a very coup loving country. We have 13 coups in the past 80 years. Anyway, so in 2014 military coup, again, the US turned its back against Thailand. It cut its assistance and ties with the Thai junta. But then China, reached its hand and want to cooperate with the Thai junta. Less than a year, the junta leader, Prayut Chan-o-cha, flew to meet with President Xi Jinping in Beijing. So, this coup actually coincided with the rise of Xi Jinping as the leader of China and, his ambitious projects to build his own international order, the so-called international order. So within 5 years since the coup, China influence in Thailand has increased tremendously. So in a latest index, it's called the China Index Project, which is measuring the PRC influence around the globe. Thailand is now ranked number 3 among the country with the most PRC influence. And as you can see, the first corporation or influence is the military. As China wants to have more military activities with other countries, the Thai junta as well, they want to increase their own budgets, military budgets. So this is how, this is like their firm cooperation. And then they also have, you can see the second is the law enforcement, meaning that these authoritarian regimes really help each other. So there was a time when Thailand helped China to arrest dissidents in Thailand and deport them back to China. And also Thailand actually helped to deport the Uyghurs, refugees back to China as well. But one part of China's big dream actually is about transportation, about economic development. So the Thai, you can see China wants to build a railway network linking Kunming to Singapore, and it wants to build the railway from China to Laos and Laos to Thailand. So this has been in the works. The Laos stretch of the railway project has been done just last year. At the same time, it wants to also build this kind of port marine route as well. So, this is what has been going on. But the Thai-China cooperation didn't just have this rosy kind of success. It also was met with the resistance of the people as well. So the China plan was to dredge the river. Sorry, I have to go back a bit. So China planned to dredge the river of the Mekong in Thailand because they want to build more marine trade route here, was met with civil society and local community resistance. And eventually the plan was put on hold. One more thing was that, analysts are accusing China of controlling the Mekong river because China is actually like the stretch of the river that flew from China. In the China, the upper stream of the Mekong River, there are 11 Chinese dams, and these dams can actually, they can control the river. In 2019, the Mekong River was having a drought crisis, and that because of the dams upstream. So people are saying this is how China is playing geopolitics with the region. But furthermore, talking about people resistance, during that time of the last coup in Thailand, 2014, we also seen the anti-China sentiment in Hong Kong as well. So not only they are fighting for democracy, they also stand together to unite on several occasions. For example, in 2016, 2 years after the Thai coup, the Thai activists invited Joshua Wong to have a speech in Bangkok about pro-democracy movement. But he was detained in Bangkok, and people reportedly because of the China's request. And that has actually fueled anti-China sentiment among the Thai young generation. And in 2020, many protests erupted in Thailand because of, the young generation just came out to oppose the government, which is led by the former military coup leader who came to power because of these rules that he created. And during that time, it was kind of like a drama saga online where the Chinese trolls, we can be like the Chinese netizens are accusing, Thai celebrity of supporting Hong Kong and stuff like that. And it blew off, and it's kind of burst into a pan kind of Asia movement, which is called the Milk Tea Alliance, named after the shared passion for the ice drinks in the region. So, this prompted the Chinese embassy to issue the statement that, Thailand and China is brothers and blah, blah, blah. But this didn't actually resolve the issue. Later in 2020, the young generation organized protests against the government, and they really asked for really big reforms, including the reform to the Thai monarchy, which was something that, people never done it before because of very harsh laws. So you can see the student protester on the left side. This one, she was part of the protester who staged protests in front of the Chinese embassy in Bangkok, and she was not happy with China's influence in Thailand, and saying that China is backing Thailand's authoritarian regime. During this time, also we see the exchange of protest tactics. You see this picture. Actually, it was taken in Bangkok, not in Hong Kong, but they are using the same tactics of umbrella, which is taken from the umbrella movement. And 2021, sadly, the region also faced a brutal military regime in Myanmar. So the young Burmese protesters came out to protest, and they joined the Milk Tea Alliance. Also, they love milk tea as well, to fight against the authoritarianism. So from then on, the movement stand to include many countries from Hong Kong, Taiwan, until Malaysia, who are also battling with the authoritarian, legacy of their government as well. However, until now, 2 years after the protests in Thailand, thousands of activists, not just Thailand, thousands of activists across the region, Hong Kong, Myanmar, Thailand, have been detained, many have been killed in Myanmar. In Thailand, many are charged with really heavy charges. So, we can see this civil society keeps shrinking despite this kind of like pan-Asia movement. And when you take a closer look at what's happening in Myanmar today, you can see that, China also invested a lot in Myanmar because they want to build a road that connects to the, India. They want to build a road connect to Bangladesh, and in turn supporting the Myanmar military. China and Russia actually are selling arms to Myanmar junta, despite they are targeting civilian, citizens in Myanmar. Many people have died because of attacks, and using the arms sold by Russia and China. And Russia and China also blocked the UN Security Council from, taking a more stronger stance against the Myanmar coup. So, yes, this is my conclusion. What we can see, the trend is going on in Southeast Asia, at least in Southeast Asia, is a rising influence of China that try to expand its power and willing to cooperate with regimes despite their poor human rights record. Not to say that China also has really bad human rights record. So for me, they're forming this kind of authoritarian alliance, but at the same time, we have a transnational movement that, led by the young generation and were formed online, very very alternative to the traditional way of, like how civil society does their activism. But they cannot, weather this repression by authoritarian alliance that led by China. So, this is kind of like my question, and also kind of to everybody here, what can the international community do to support, the movement across Asia like this? Yeah, so that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.